Season 6, Episode 7 of Game of Thrones, The Broken Man. It begins with one of the show's few cold opens and the inspiration for its title. Sandor Clegane, otherwise known as the Hound, is alive following his run-in with Brienne a few seasons back. And he's joined this time by Ian McShane, he of HBO Deadwood fame. As it turns out, Ian McShane's septon has come upon Sandor shortly after Arya left him for dead, and he nursed the troubled knight back to health. Now Sandor is traveling with this religious group, and although he questions the purpose of his survival, he does appear to have found some small semblance of peace. But we'll come back to him in a moment. In King's Landing, Margaery is continuing to play up her new identity as a faithful and pious queen in order to placate the High Sparrow. However, when this shoeless zealot threatens Lady Olenna, Margaery's grandmother, the queen decides to discreetly reveal her true colors. She slips Lady Olenna a note and a warning, urging her to return to Highgarden. Does the Septon see this sleuthy exchange? It's hard to tell. Either way, Margaery is in a very precarious position right now. Elsewhere in the capital, Cersei, hilariously followed by the Zombie Mountain, visits Lady Olenna, who delivers a well-worded and deserved tongue-lashing to Cersei. But in Cersei's defense, she is willing to shoulder the blame for her part in the rise of the High Sparrow. This season, Cersei has been much more self-aware and honestly more rational overall, which makes her better suited for a comeback in whatever power struggles are to come. Jon convinces 1-1 and the Wildlings to take up for his cause in the fight for Winterfell. This is a good example of Jon's ability to connect with the free folk and explain the greater dangers that face the realm. Unfortunately, he's not quite as articulate when it comes to his fellow Northerners in Westeros. Jon and Sansa are both unable to make a compelling argument to Lady Mormont, the niece of the former Lord Commander and cousin to Jorah. But do not let Lady Mormont's young age fool you, as she instantly becomes one of the highlights of this episode. Let's put it this way, if Lady Mormont had 3 dragons, this show would have been over years ago. It's fitting that Davos, who held Princess Shireen so dear, that he is the one who's able to reach Lady Mormont and convince her to throw her support behind their cause. Unfortunately, her contributions amount to just 62 fighting men, which, as we know, is not going to be able to get things done. Things go even worse when our heroes meet with House Glover, who faithfully supported the Starks during the War of the Five Kings, and were left decimated as a result. Even though this guy is a total dick about everything, he makes a good point. He's seen the folly of the honorable way, and he isn't willing to endanger his people's lives to protect it any longer. At this point, can you really blame him? As a result, we see Sansa writing a letter, presumably to Littlefinger, asking for help from the Knights of the Vale. While the Vale's army would obviously be a huge boon for Jon's cause, we've learned that Littlefinger, time and time again, never signs off on a deal unless he is the primary beneficiary. Sansa needs to be careful in her dealings with him. At Riverrun, Jaime bitch-slaps some sense into the idiotic phrase and also provides a welcome return for Bronn, one of the major sources of comic relief in the show and a fan favorite. The Lannisters are taking command of the siege of Riverrun, and Jaime wants to meet with the Blackfish. Unfortunately, this meeting does not go so well. The Blackfish has seen his family slaughtered. He's not going to be easy to move at this point, committed to his cause. I have a feeling that this will not be the last conversation between these two patriarchs. Yara and Theon are stealing Euron's plan to align themselves with Daenerys. It's a good plan, but Yara needs the real Theon Greyjoy if she's going to pull this off. This is a great scene because Yara is the one who is empowering Theon and giving him strength. This season has made it a point to show women taking control of situations and propping up many of their male counterparts. It's a drastic departure from what we've seen in past seasons of Thrones, and it's a welcome change. Plus, it's been fascinating to see Theon's transformation from Ramsay's torture pet back into a man of real substance. But will it last? Arya is booking passage home to Westeros, officially calling it quits with the Faceless Men. That's probably a good idea too, because it doesn't look as if she's learned anything. She's taken completely unaware and unprepared by the waif and is stabbed multiple times. Come on, Arya, I thought you were supposed to be a badass assassin. As she walks through the streets, bleeding and injured, you can see the fear on her face as she passes along every single unfamiliar face in the crowd. Anyone could be the waif. The Brotherhood without banners, once a roaming independent party committed to justice, have clearly abandoned their ideals as they slaughter Sandor's religious group while he's out cutting firewood. This leads to the Hound picking up an axe and setting out on what we can only assume is an ass-kicking journey. Honestly, I'm not totally behind this turn of events. Sandor's arc has been so interesting and so touching because you've seen the good within him fight against the violence and anger that his family created. It's never too late to come back, Ian McShane Septon tells him. It looked as if Sandor was finally going to find peace after a lifetime of struggle. And while Clegane Bowl, if it happens in what is essentially being teased here, is great fan service and will undoubtedly be one of the most entertaining moments this season, it undercuts the development Sandor has gone through in Game of Thrones. But unfortunately, as we've seen, pacifism is suicide in the Seven Kingdoms. So that's the Broken Man. We've got the return of Sandor Clegane, the continued uprising of the High Sparrow and the Faith Militant. We've got Jon amassing forces to march on Winterfell, while Jaime deals with rebellion in the Riverlands. We've also got a lot going on across the Narrow Sea. The Greyjoys are heading to Meereen, and Arya hopefully is making it back home in one piece. What did you think of this episode? Comment below with any thoughts or predictions you had, and thanks for watching.